everyone, and welcome into Perspectives, the home edition. I'm your host, Sam Jones. Good to have you with us today as we weather a semi-cloudy day. I don't know, the weather's been kind of freakish lately, but today we're taping on a really cold day in this part of the country. Our first guest today is Clarence Boyd. Now, Clarence is with the Commemoration Fund, which was under the umbrella of the Zarrow Foundation. And Clarence, it's good to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Could you help enlighten the folks at home? What is the Commemoration Fund?
Yes, of course. So the Commemoration Fund was founded in 2020 in June after the murder of George Floyd. The Zarrow families came together and decided that it was more important to, instead of just putting a statement on a website, they had to do a little bit more. And they came together within a week, established an advisory board for the Commemoration Fund, and gave this board, complete authority on deciding grants and programs for the people in this community.
Primarily, it's to correct social, political, and economic injustices that impact people of color, is it not?
Correct. And it's made of a board completely of color, of people of color. So it's very dynamic. We've got stakeholders across a broad number of foundations and objectives, and so it's been very, very exciting to see this kind of come about.
How long have you guys been together?
So I was originally asked to be a part of the advisory board. I had been working in commercial banking for the last 10 years, and then got an invite to join the Zarrow Family Foundations and become the program officer and lead up the Commemoration Fund. So I've been at the foundations since November of 2020.
It's an interesting point, Clarence. It seems as though there are folks out there who walk around with their heads in a cloud saying, we have no social injustices, no inequities toward people of color. And that is having your head in a cloud, isn't it?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And I think if you look at the data that's coming out, even as early as last year, the numbers still tell the same story, if not worse, in terms of some of the disparities that our communities of color are dealing with on a daily basis.
All right. Do you have any statistics or numbers with you today?
Yes, if you look at the Tulsa Equality Indicators came out, they were released earlier this month, and out of all of the indicators, there were two that have decreased since 2018, and you would think that given what has gone on, political, social climate, that these things have been addressed, but justice has declined over the last 4 years, and housing. The affordability of housing is a critical issue, especially in this day and age. And so we are working to address some of those things, and I think the board is really progressing and looking at some of the ways that the pandemic has affected communities of color as well.
The Zarrow Foundation is not prone, if you will, to pull things out of its hip pocket. They do their research. They're very careful about where they put support over there. They're a good group of people. I've seen some of the work they've done over the years, having been here since the early 70s. Were you surprised to learn how in tune the Zarrow Foundation was with the problems of people of color?
You know, it's interesting. When I joined the foundations, there were a lot of community things that I had been involved with, and did not know that the Zarrows had funded and were one of the founding funders for a lot of the initiatives that I was involved with personally. And I think that's one of the other reasons, that's what attracted me to the foundations, is just the way that they operate. They are very, very intentional about understanding the numbers, the research, and how that affects outcomes. And then what can we do to, you know, button up those pieces or holes in systems or processes that can have, you know, incremental effect with just, you know, a little bit of funding.
How many grants would you say go out yearly?
Oh, between all of the foundations, I would say probably about 400 grants.
So a lot of lives are impacted.
Of course, yes.
Well, I know the deadline is already, by the time this show airs, it will have already passed because the deadline is the 1st February. Is that going to be the same deadline now for next year?
Yes, we intend to have kind of a progress or a grant cycle that will start in November and end kind of early February. We did that initially. We had about 2 or 3 months to get this grant and fund off the ground because we wanted to have it announced in time for the 1921 centennial celebration.
Sure.
And so we'll maintain that same schedule, I think, moving forward.
It's been interesting to me to watch the developments as the centennial celebration unfolded, because now all of a sudden we're seeing folks come out of the woodwork, if you will, saying, "Oh, I think we can move that interstate." You know, have you picked up on that?
Oh yeah, I think now that, you know, the centennial brought so much national attention to Tulsa and the effects of, you know, the massacre that are impacting Tulsans to this day. The separation of the interstate, and you're speaking to this speaks to my architectural background, but, you know, just the way that, you know, cities and organizations and infrastructure can, you know, negatively impact communities for decades. I think it's an interesting study, and we need to look at, you know, options of how to reconnect all of the vibrance that's going on downtown with the North Tulsa community. I think it's a delicate question, but I think it needs to be addressed.
Oh, I do too. I 100% behind you on that. But it just struck me as curious when it was just all of a sudden it was like lightning struck, and somebody said, "Oh, we can fix that interstate problem."
Yeah.
You know, where were they 10, 15 years ago?
Right.
So anyway, now we've nailed down the grant deadline. How do they get applications in hand? And how long does the investigation take for you to go back then and look at what they've done and what they're planning to do?
So anyone can go on the website. It's zarrow.org /Commemoration Fund and get access to the application, all of the information, you know, some of the prerequisite work that needs to be addressed.
Sure.
And anyone can apply online. I think one of the main things is that, you know, applicants need to be a registered 501c3. I think that's very, very important in terms of our grant making ability. But once we get all of the applications in, I think last year we received about 65 specifically for the Commemoration Fund, with about $6.5 million in requests. Then our board will review over the next couple of months. We'll make a final announcement probably early in May. And last year, out of that $6.5 million in requests, we granted a little over $1 million to 20 different nonprofit organizations. So it's a competitive grant. I think that's something
Mhm.
that most folks aren't used to when working within the Zarrow Family Foundation's arena, but it just speaks to the demand for this type of work. And so we are actively, looking at different ways to expand on this and provide, resources to the people who need them.
Sure. Hey, listen, Clarence, I want to thank you for taking time to visit with us. I know your time is valuable. You don't have it to waste, and we like to think you're not wasting it when you're with us.
Oh, it's
So
been a pleasure.
down the road, let's do it again, all right?
Most definitely. Thank you for having us.
Okay, my friend, you take care, and my best to the rest of the group.
Thank you. You too.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more right after this.